100 amazing facts around the world.
The asshole is the first part of the human body to form in the womb, so every human starts as an asshole, some just stay that way. Firefighters use chemicals to reduce the surface tension of water, so it is easier to spread and soak into objects. It is known as wet water. Robin Williams accidentally broke Robert De Niro's nose in the 1990 movie Awakenings, but De Niro was actually fine with it. He broke his nose back in the 1980 movie Raging Bull, so breaking it again in the other direction straightened it out. The most searched tutorial on YouTube is how to kiss. Currently, 3 vaccines are authorized and recommended to prevent COVID-19: Pfizer-BioNTech, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson's Janssen. While on an African safari in 1954, Ernest Hemingway survived 2 plane crashes in 2 days. Learning is essential to our existence. Just like food nourishes our bodies, information and continued learning nourishes our minds. Subscribe now to this channel and get your daily brain nourishment. TikTok was the most downloaded mobile app in 2020. A teaspoon of matter taken from a neutron star would weigh around 10 billion tons, which is similar to the weight of an average mountain on Earth. Bobby Jones and Tiger Woods are the only golfers to have held all 4 major championships at the same time. Of the world's 25 highest peaks, 10 are in the Himalayas. The ant has the highest brain-to-body weight ratio of any animal. Some species have a brain-to-body weight ratio of 14 to 15%. Comparatively, humans have a brain-to-body weight ratio of about 2.5%. Emperor Hirohito of Japan was a huge fan of Mickey Mouse. He was given a Mickey Mouse watch as a gift during his special tour of Disneyland in 1975. For years, even on formal occasions, His Majesty was observed wearing the watch. In 1883, American poet Emma Lazarus wrote the words that are engraved on the Statue of Liberty. It was part of an effort to raise money for the statue's pedestal. The original jeans had 4 pockets, the tiny one in front, plus 2 more on the front, and 1 in the back. The tiny pocket was designed to hold a pocket watch. Our days of the week come from the names of Norse gods. J.R.R. Tolkien once received a goblet from a fan inscribed with "One ring to rule them all," inscribed on the rim in black speech. Tolkien never drank out of it, since it was written in an accursed language, and instead used it as an ashtray. Google Chrome controls 61.35% of the global share of mobile browser usage. $1,000 bills, as well as other large denominations, exist in the US, and were actually used until they were taken out of circulation in 1969, when Rudolf Hess, right-hand man to Adolf Hitler, flew on an apparently unsanctioned peace mission to Great Britain in 1941. The German public was quickly told that Hess suffered from mental disturbance and hallucinations. Jason Isaacs, who played Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter films, was once caught trying to steal his wand from the set. The Soboba Casino is best known for the unbelievable robbery attempt that took place in 2007, when 2 men stole a whopping $1.5 million by nefarious means from under the house's nose. 12 American prisoners of war were killed in the Hiroshima atomic bomb blast. There is a pecan pie vending machine in Cedar Creek, Texas. The machine is open 24/7, is stocked daily, and contains full-sized pies and other sweet pecan treats. Overmorrow is the day after tomorrow. The Code of Hammurabi decreed that bartenders who watered down beer would be executed. The burning of Washington was a British invasion of Washington City, the capital of the United States, during the Chesapeake Campaign of the War of 1812. To this date, it remains the only time since the American Revolutionary War that a foreign power has captured and occupied the capital of the United States. Pregnant women in Auschwitz were told they would receive double portions of food but were sent to gas chambers instead. Avengers Endgame became the highest-grossing movie in history on July 21, 2019, after 89 days of release, and had become the second highest-grossing movie worldwide 12 days after its initial release. Romania has the world's heaviest building. Bucharest's Palace of Parliament is 276 feet high, covers an area of 1.41 square miles, has a volume of 2.55 million cubic meters, and weighs about 9 billion pounds. The story of Cinderella originated in China. Almost 1% of the world's population eats at McDonald's each day. The oh my god particle was a proton traveling at about 99.9999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999 the speed of light. It is the fastest moving object ever recorded, and as it hit the atmosphere it carried the kinetic energy equivalent to a baseball traveling at 50 miles per hour, all in one particle. Most of the camels in Saudi Arabia are imported from Australia. Teddy Roosevelt once had his boat stolen by 3 armed thieves. With the help of 2 friends, he built a new boat and personally tracked down and captured the thieves. When you're buried 6 feet down in soil and without a coffin, an average adult body normally takes 8 to 12 years to decompose to a skeleton. The global mobile app revenues are expected to reach $935.2 billion by 2023. The concept of a zombie apocalypse is 4,000 years old. In the heroic epic about him, Gilgamesh, the mythical king of Uruk spurned the advances of Ishtar, the goddess of fertility. She became enraged and threatened to raise the dead who will outnumber the living and devour them. If you don't identify as an extrovert or introvert, you may be an ambivert, which is a person moderately comfortable with groups and social interactions but also relishes time alone away from crowds. Brass doorknobs automatically disinfect themselves in 8 hours, which is known as the oligodynamic effect. Aztec kings wore cloaks made entirely of hummingbird skins. It would take about 8,000 hummingbirds to create an adult-size cloak. Millennials being scrutinized isn't unique to this generation. Older generations have been doing it to younger generations for over 2,000 years. Similar criticisms include laziness, being self-absorbed, spending too much money, expectations being too high, and the use of technology. Due to lava flows from the Kilauea volcano, the Big Island of Hawaii is getting 42 acres larger each year. 5 billion students, 87% of the global student population, were out of school at the end of March because of coronavirus. Before the Renaissance era, 3/4 of all books in the world were in Chinese. Shahid Azmi, who was falsely imprisoned for 7 years. He spent most of his sentence at the library studying law and working to prove his innocence. He then became a lawyer to help free other people who have been falsely convicted. Canada has a larger inland water area than any other country. Carl Gagosian is serving 17 years in jail after robbing 50 banks over a 30-year period, stealing $2 million. The longest river in the world is the Nile. It is 4,135 miles long. There are spas in Austria filled only with warm beer. Starkenberger Brewery in Austria turned fermenting vats into drinkable beer pools, and it's promoting itself as the ultimate man spa. Penguin prostitutes have sex with unattached males and take a pebble from the male's nest after having sex. Russell Brand was legally entitled to take $20 million from Katy Perry's fortune when they divorced, but refused to take any. On the set of The Princess Bride, Andre the Giant once let out a 16-second fart and brought production to a standstill. Nobody said anything except director Rob Reiner, who said, "Are you okay, Andre?" To which Andre replied, "I am now boss." Bangkok, Thailand, is the world's most visited city. London is second. The Central Bank of Iraq robbery, over $920 million robbery in Baghdad, became the largest bank heist in history. The mastermind was none other than Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. Worker ants take hundreds of 1 to 2 minute naps per day so that they can essentially work around the clock. The most popular sport in the world is football. Second place goes to cricket, followed by field hockey. The Vatican's secret archives contain documents such as a handwritten transcript of the trial against Galileo, a letter from Mary Queen of Scots from when she was awaiting execution, and a letter from Michelangelo complaining about not being paid for his work in the Sistine Chapel. In 2016, Kanye West was busted pirating editing software from torrent site Pirate Bay. The oldest instruments date back 43,000 years ago, which were flutes made out of bones from birds and mammoth. Spain kept the discovery of chocolate a national secret for nearly a century. Bhumibol Adulyadej, the King of Thailand, was actually born in Cambridge, Massachusetts in the United States in 1927. When he was born, the hospital room that he was delivered in was briefly declared Thai territory so he could be born on Thai soil. In 1909, the world's first mile of concrete highway was built in Wayne County, Michigan. In 2013, Sean Conway became the first man ever to swim the entire length of Great Britain. The 900 miles trek took him 135 days to complete. 90 days were spent in water while the rest were spent avoiding bad weather and resting. In 2013, Google sent a lone employee to an abandoned Japanese island called Gumjima to map it for Google Street View. The island was once the most densely populated island in the world, but is now completely abandoned. There were 130 billion downloads of apps and games in 2020. In 2005, Mark Zuckerberg offered to sell Facebook to Myspace. Myspace CEO Chris Dewolf rejected Zuckerberg's asking price of $75 million. During the rebuild of the World Trade Center, a 30-minute lunch break actually ran much longer as workers had to wait for elevators to ferry them up and down. To accommodate these workers, Subway created a mobile restaurant that moved up the building as they finished each floor. Mosquitoes don't just bite you and suck your blood, they urinate on you before flying off. The Dutch East India Company, the world's first formally listed public company, started off as a spice trader. In 1602 it undertook the world's first recorded IPO. Going public enabled the company to raise the vast sum of 6.5 million guilders quickly. The nicotine from one puff of a cigarette reaches your brain in 7 seconds. Alcohol take approximately 6 minutes. Elvis Presley was quite gifted in the martial arts. He reached the level of first-degree black belt, and one of his instructors was quoted saying in martial arts, he wasn't Elvis, the entertainer. He was Elvis, the black belt, with 15 years experience. The country with the most millionaires is the US. The country with the most billionaires is China. If you left Tokyo by plane at 7 a.m., you would arrive at Honolulu at approximately 8 p.m. the previous day due to the 19-hour difference in time zone. The Kevlar bulletproof vest was invented by a pizza delivery guy after being shot twice on the job. More than 70% of watch time on YouTube is from mobile devices. Pus is just white blood cells that died fighting off infection. New York Times puzzle editor Will Shortz designed his own major program at Indiana University, and in 1974 became the first and only holder of a degree in enigmatology, the study of puzzles. Only 15% of all plants are on land. Nobel Prize winner Dr. James Watson, the co-discoverer of DNA's double helix structure, believed that babies shouldn't be considered alive until 3 days after birth so that if the baby is sick, disabled, deformed, or deemed otherwise unacceptable, the baby can be legally left to die or euthanized. There are already 3.5 billion smartphone users globally. It would cost approximately $42,000 a year to attend Hogwarts if it were real. 2 young girls from England convinced the world of the existence of fairies through 5 cleverly manipulated photographs taken from 1917 to 1920. The women only admitted that the Cottingley fairies were hoax in their 80s, but still claim one picture is real. Sultan Qasim is a Turkish farmer who holds the Guinness World Record for tallest living male at 8 feet 2.82 inches. In 2010, a Polish man living in Germany asked doctors to remove what he thought was a several-year-old cyst at the back of his head. However, doctors found that the cyst was actually a .22 caliber round lodged in his scalp. He didn't notice it because he was drunk. A hippopotamus can defecate so much in the water they are in that fish start to die because the bacteria in the hippo's feces use up the majority of the oxygen contained in the river. President Ulysses S. Grant's parents did not attend his wedding because his fiancée's family owned slaves. A British Army officer named Eric Lomax was a prisoner of war in Japan during World War II. He was starved, viciously beaten, and tortured by a Japanese officer named Nagase Takashi. 50 years after he was released, Eric Lomax met his chief tormentor again and they became great friends. Americans cast more votes in the voting of Taylor Hicks in American Idol than the 1984 presidential election of Ronald Reagan. Tomb Raider character's creator, Toby Gard, said that Lara Croft's original name was supposed to be Laura Cruz. However, the game's developers wanted a more British influence for the female lead. Martin Luther King Jr. got a C in public speaking. Gary Sinise, the actor behind disabled veteran Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, has a foundation that builds houses and vehicles designed for disabled veteran autonomy. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do about our own oceans. In 1891, Tesla made a risky demonstration to discredit Edison Company's claims on the safety of AC. During the demo, for a moment, 250,000 volts raced across the surface of his body, causing him to be surrounded by what one newspaper called the effulgent glory of myriad tongues of electric flame. People who read are 2.5 times less likely to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's. 14 squirrels were detained and charged with espionage on the Iranian border. They were allegedly carrying devices used to gather information. The Maruyama Zoo in Japan spent 4 years trying to get 2 hyenas to mate before realizing they were both male. U.S. President Grover Cleveland's wife was the youngest First Lady, the first to be married in the White House, and the first to give birth while her husband was president. Shaggy was a Marine prior to his music career. He served with a field artillery battery in the 10th Marine Regiment during the Persian Gulf War. America has its own Stonehenge, privately owned tourist attraction and archaeological site consisting of a number of large rocks and stone structures scattered around roughly 30 acres within the town of Salem, New Hampshire. White torture is a type of psychological torture that involves putting the prisoner in a completely white, soundproof room, often leading the prisoner to madness.
World Top 20.
Thanks for watching.
For more videos, please like the video, comment below, and subscribe to the channel.
We wish you a fruitful day ahead.
And remember, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.